Well, I'll just start us off. Thank you, Jessica. I'm Stacy Smith Rogers, content team member from Spoken. And first, I'd like to say congratulations on a Bench by the Sea, your drama being chosen as a 2025 staff pick by our content team. We loved it. And as we were just chatting prior to the call, I see where you hopped in and you checked out the custom voice option and changed a little bit of your characters. Tell us a little bit about that, about your project.
Oh,
Talking about how your experimentation with the custom voice options.
sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, just the feature itself was when I first kind of realized what it was. I'm not the most tech savvy person, and for this to be as seamless as it's been it says a lot about the platform.
Mm.
I think really anybody, any writer of any genre, of any stage in their career, any age, would be able to use it, which is enormous. Like that's my favorite thing about it is
Yeah.
it doesn't really require much thought when you're generating the voice. So the best
Would you
thing
say
about
it's like very intuitive?
extremely intuitive and
Yeah.
even I mean down to the very the quality of the voice is incredibly
Mm.
it's surprising because it's not I haven't had much experience with AI narration or anything like that prior, which I think is a good thing because I'm sort of
Right.
realizing somebody with no experience is able to do this. Like,
Hmm.
okay. And the so for the voice generator, that specific character I was just having trouble finding something that I felt kind of brought her to life in terms like her age. I wanted her age to be sort of known, and the generator was the only thing that really did that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Well, I love it. I I'm so excited. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey as a writer, just briefly,
Sure.
and how you came to Spoken.
Okay. Well, so primarily I wrote poetry. I mean, I've been scribbling down my random musings and calling them poetry since I was a child. But my so my creative journey sort of began with music though. So I've been singing my whole life, and that led to an acceptance to a performing arts high school. And there is where I took my first creative writing class, and that kind of just it was it for me. Like I just
That was a spark for you.
that was inspired. Yeah, that it was more than it was more than a hobby at that point. Then, life happens and I kind of took a detour into the medical field. I took a detour into just staying home with my kids for a few years. And then I kind of went through just some personal loss. I went through some, life just tends to throw you curveballs. And writing became sort of like a lifeline at that point. And that's when I started really putting my time into it. And I had
Mhm.
my first poem published, and then I had a couple of short stories published, and then um, joined writing platforms. Like and then
Mhm.
I came across Spoken in the beta phase, and the concept was intriguing, but it was a little bit intimidating. Um, so I applied to be to write for the site or whatever, and then it was like it made storytelling feel approachable, if that makes sense. Like,
It totally makes sense. I
yeah.
love
So
that you just said that. Because one of the missions is behind Spoken is to help storytellers tell stories.
yeah, exactly. Well,
I
that's what it's,
mean,
yeah.
it's
I would
it.
say that's a perfect description of what it's doing. It's also for me personally, it's inspired me to write more because the platform itself, the studio, everything is it's just plain like fun. It's fun to do it and it's fun to like
Mhm.
hear your work kind of come to life and to assign it's more of casting than it is like picking
Yes.
voices.
Right.
So it makes like, I would say that for somebody like me who's more comfortable with a notebook, you know what I mean? This has
Mhm.
been so eye-opening and just fun.
That leads me to ask you, how has it developed you as a writer, this process?
Oh, well, it's kind of it surprised me like at first because I think it's become such a part of my editing process, which I didn't expect at first. I expected to have my story or my poem or my piece
Mhm.
and it be done, and then this part of it would come. But assigning voices to your specific characters, or even just like, to get the tone of your piece across is so it's such a personal thing, but it's also with spoken, it's like it forces me to really, really focus on things like pacing and like, the tone of each character. And even just, I mean, where I want this, how do I say this? I didn't realize that I would be editing after uploading the text. You know what I'm saying? So
I
like
know
I do,
exactly what you're saying.
and
I've uploaded
I do it every time
myself
now.
and I'm
It
editing in passages and I'm thinking, oh, I need to save this for my other document because I'm making it a better piece. It's
exactly,
listening.
exactly. That's
And
exactly what I've sort of I think that it was surprising, but it's also just like it's so it's so creatively like exciting. Do you know what I mean? That like there's
I
this,
totally know what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like a different toy. Like,
it is.
it's like a toy tool and whatever. But it's like, wow, I've gotten into it. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to hear this brought to life.
Same,
And
same.
what I used to do prior to spoken, I would use my voice recorder on my phone and just speak in there and just read aloud my work
Yeah,
and I've listened to it, but rather and not look at the words, and that started helping me. But taking it to a whole new level on spoken
right.
and casting characters, like you said, I think I totally agree with you that it
Yeah.
not just brings it to life, but you're making adjustments, right? And
Oh,
you're
definitely. Like
improving.
a lot of adjustments. And that's, I think, what I'm so grateful to be part of this whole thing. And especially in the beginning, because like to see the updates and all those things kind of come out, it's like I'm very excited about it, you
Oh,
know?
well, that's
Um,
great.
like, it's not just it's also it's empowering because I feel like it's like somebody who just personally I would think of audio production like you read as simple as okay, you're reading like what you just said, you're reading your story in a microphone, but this is like oh my God, the quality, everything is just on point. And I think it's going to make this platform very attractive to users of all different types and genres and stages.
That's I think so
Yes.
too. I'm glad to hear. So tell us a little bit about your casting process. I know it is kind of fun. You are auditioning all these voices
Auditioning is a great
um,
word.
and then you've just experimented with a custom voice. I've read some of your other pieces. You have many other great works up on Unspoken. We
Well,
just checked
thank
the
you.
views on a bench by the sea because we all felt like it just really was just, oh, it tugged at the heartstrings. Also, one thing about your writing I love is you got a little you love the plot twist a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, you caught that. Yeah.
Who
I
doesn't
feel
love a
like
good plot twist? I do. And but you have used it in a variety of genres. And that's interesting. I really, really think that draws the reader in and it gets them thinking. That's really cool. So
thank you. Yeah, that's sometimes I mean in my process I feel like my favorite stories are the ones that I've written the ending first. You know what I mean?
uh
And then I
yeah.
sort of build that because I love as a reader, I love a good twist. I love a good surprise.
Mhm.
So
Me too.
I appreciate that.
So when you're casting the characters, what are you looking for? Is each process different? How have you grown as a casting director, I guess you'd say?
Well, I mean, this is just, it's become one of my favorite aspects of spoken. I think being able to explore how different voices can sort of change or enhance the tone and feel of a story. What's interesting is how the process makes you think about your characters too in a new way. You know, just, I mean,
Yes. Hmm.
do you know what? It's kind of a strange thing. You're not just writing their dialogue, you're casting their voices. So it's like it's made me dig deeper into who my characters are.
Hmm.
And then also, do they, for example, do they speak quickly? Do they hesitate before answering? Like those little details that are so important to a story and a character. Are they confident, uncertain? And what spoken provides is just all these options. It's like it's impossible to not find a voice for your vision. It's been, and especially now with the generator, it's like it's mind blowing.
It is. And I think I love when an author uses a variety of voices. And I look and sometimes I'll listen to something and I know enough now to know who the voices are.
Yeah.
We get these custom voices and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting. It's kind of a combination of these two, and I'll sometimes go back and say, well, I wonder who she picked. And so when I hopped on to see this morning, you're on a bench by the sea to remind myself who you cast. I'm like, she's been playing around with custom voice. I see that. I loved it.
Thought. Yeah. I've been doing it like, I mean, I got really excited. I dove in.
Uh-huh. That's great. Well, so how are you inviting others to listen to your work unspoken? Because I think what we're here talking about is that um, accomplished writers they often have a huge following, or they're growing their brands, their platforms, and their readers or listeners are used to following them in a certain way.
Yeah.
Well, this is like a whole new level.
Yeah.
How are you inviting your base, your followers to come alongside and listen to your work on spoken?
Well, um, I personally think that like Spoken's beta users can be sort of ambassadors for the platform in a way, and I think that that's really important because, for example, so I am involved in other writing platforms, and I've been active on mainly like poetry, but spoken actually. I feel like since I've joined, it's made me to dive a little deeper into my prose, and
Mm.
I've
Mhm.
really I've been mainly focused on like my new stuff, like stories now. And I love that. And I love that this has given me sort of like that inspiration because it is fun, but it's also then discovering the editing and all that. Anyway, so for one way that I sort of try to spread the word is uh I'll share my stories that I have unspoken on the other platforms. For example, I recently entered on a bench by the sea into one of a contest on one of the platforms that I'm on. So it won, and then yeah, so I was very excited because then it brings a little bit more attention to the piece. But in the author's notes, I put the link, listen here for spoken. So I'm hoping and that's just happened. So I'm hoping that will be something that gets people to, and I have a pretty decent following on that specific platform. So
Mm.
things like that, like I'm gonna intentionally, not, and social media is an obvious, great way to spread the word. But I think really like it's these platforms that people they're gonna want, especially like writers who are, on Medium or things like that. They're gonna want, this is such an exciting new thing. So I
Yes.
think that it's one of those things where if we can kind of spread the word and just kind of guide people there, it's gonna speak for itself. People aren't gonna it's not gonna take long for them to kind of see what the potential is.
I love that. And I think our marketing team's going to love that. Spoken's going to be able to speak for itself.
Yeah.
I'd like to put you on that. Is
Oh,
that
good.
okay?
I mean it.
That's great. Well, I can feel your enthusiasm. And I just want to let you know when we were talking as a content team, and I said, "Hey, Jessica's got something on like four different genres here," and I said, "But this drama is really standing out." And I was talking to the team. I said, "I think she views herself, or her origins, or as a poet. That's where what I did a little research on you, and I'm like."
Oh.
She's more of a poet, but the guys are like, oh, I hope she writes more prose. So that's where
Oh.
that's where we are. We're ready to hear more of your work when you're ready. And thank you for using Spoken as a platform where you are playing around and
Yeah.
creating some beautiful pieces of work. that
Thank you.
are meaningful. And for those of us who view writing as a little bit of a therapeutic deep dives, we appreciate the authors who are vulnerable enough to share their stories and bring, I guess, tough subjects out into the light in such creative and compassionate ways. And I think that describes a lot of your work, Jessica. So
Oh,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
that.
I appreciate that so much. I'm so I really I the enthusiasm is is genuine, and I feel like it's just this is going to be it's going to I think the coming months are going to show, what this means. It's just it's so new and it's so unique and it's been so fun to do
Yeah.
this. And I'm definitely going to be I've been working on a couple of more like, sort of just silly and like Tuesdays are for closure. I have like some sort of like that.
I don't know why I didn't bring that one up.
Oh,
I, oh my goodness. We all shared that around. That was
oh,
hilarious.
that
And
was so fun to write, I have to say. Like it was like and
it,
it was totally inspired by the platform. You know what I mean? Because
uh-huh.
I feel like I was like and before I even realized Sassy, who surprised that was one of my biggest surprises on
Oh, me too.
my
When I
experience.
saw you had cast Sassy, and I'm like, oh no, I'm
Yeah.
she's too much. This voice is because I'm like, I know this voice is too much. And then I started listening, I'm like, this voice is perfect.
I'm so happy you said
She
that.
was so perfect.
She it was such a like an awesome surprise too because I did that this particular one was one of the ones and I tend to be a little obsessive so I don't think everybody's going to have as hard of a time. I like to take my time and really kind of like explore because
Mhm.
spoken has so much to offer. There's so many different, avenues I can go. So I will have no problem spending that time and searching for the right voice, but she was I tested her out very late game with this piece. And I could not believe how perfect it was.
She was awesome.
And it was, it was it worked pretty much worked out the first. I think I edited like two or three sections with her, and she was just like it was delivered in the way that like I envisioned it. You know?
It was perfect. And
Yay!
I always am, I'm very familiar with all the voices. And when I tested her on a few things, I'm like, oh, she's totally a character voice. No, no one can use her to single narrate. And I'm like, oh, Jessica Wheeler did.
Yeah.
And she delivered. It was great. I
I gave
love
her a shot, and she just blew me
it.
away.
You know what? That's the thing about this is that we're even learning. We're all, those of us who are behind the scenes are learning through the creations that are being uploaded. And that's it's really awesome. So,
Aw,
well, thanks again. And
thank you,
we look
Stacy.
forward to listening to more of your work. So,
Oh, well, it was so nice talking to you, and you've been so amazing and supportive and like encouraging, and I really appreciate you. So
oh, thanks
thank
a
you.
lot.